Yo, what is up, everyone? This is Records and Rants. Happy New Year to everyone. And with us, as always, is Dixon. How are you?
Back for another year. And it's exciting, right?
Very exciting. I think 2024 was fantastic, and I think 2025 is going to be even better.
Wow, I think you're probably right. We had a really good year. We were on holiday break the last couple weeks, and you were under the weather. Poor bastard, you were a little sick.
As always.
But yeah, we made a lot of strides in 2024. And I think we're gonna make even longer strides. And the goals for the subscriptions are that's still a reality. There'll still be a reality going into the new year, I'm sure.
I got a lot of big plans. Actually, Dixon, quick note here. I got to talk to you BTS about some plans for the channel. We'll see what happens.
Oh, interesting.
You guys might be seeing some new things. Nothing's going to change with us, but you'll see.
The plans are, dude, I'm going to get a new co-host, so it's going to be over.
Yeah, Dixon, I don't know. I just can't do this anymore. I'm going solo, so see you later.
Yeah, thanks for everything. Bye.
Bye.
Gosh, nah. Well, I'm looking forward to it, though. I really am looking forward to it. But so we usually do this. We've done this maybe last year, maybe the last couple of years. I don't know. Our favorite song, perhaps songs of the previous year, and we talked BTS, and we talked about picking one song that we thought was our favorite. Maybe we thought was the best. Whatever criteria it might be, that we even just really enjoyed it. And we both confessed we tweaked it and cheated a little bit, right? Do we have a little bit more to just one song?
Yeah, it did happen, and it was really hard for me. I don't know what it was about this year, but it was really hard for me to just pin down one best song, because I really did enjoy a lot.
Yeah, there was some good stuff out there. There really was. And I told you you'd be surprised by my pick, and I think it is surprising, because I'll just go into my what I thought would be my overall number one. I think we'll start there and we'll backtrack. Yeah. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right. So this song brings no intellectual value. No, I don't know. It's not highbrow anyway. It is Baby No Money 2.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I found out it's bbno $, right? And it's Baby No Money. And he actually collaborated with Young Gravy a few years ago. And the name of the song is 2. And I was introduced to it by my fiance at a football game tailgate. And the video is hilarious. I mean, the video is kind of like weird, which whatever. It's hilarious, but it's weird. And the song itself has a really good vibe, beat, production. Like I said, it's a complete nonsense, but I really like it. And that, to me, the reason why I picked that as my number one is I want that to sum up the year as being fun and light and vibrant, and you're with your friends and those kind of things. That's why I kind of picked it. I hope they reflect that energy and going forward as well.
Okay.
Yes. Have you heard that song yet?
I believe I have. I think it was only like maybe once I've heard it, but yeah.
It was out there. It's been out there. I think it was like made a TikTok thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
So then my other songs, and I have to confess to you something. I really have to confess to you, and the audience, I have to confess to you as well. I've really, particularly in the last month or so, I've really taken an affinity to Sabrina Carpenter.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because once again, I don't think any of these songs, I don't think the majority of her songs are all that intellectual either. But I will tell you, I think they're more honest than most.
Yes.
And we've talked about that before, right?
We have.
A little bit more of a raw edge, a little bit more honest. I feel like I'm reading her notebook, but I'm reading it with a few people reading it and making edits to it, and then I hear it, right? Co-writes a lot of her songs, fine. You and I have co-written. Co-writing is not a bad thing.
Yeah, we have.
It's a bad thing. It's
totally
not.
Fine. Totally fine.
It's a collaboration is encouraged. It can bring out the best in you. I think her general vibe and her general attitude and the tone of her songs just works so well for how she is, what she does, her kind of MO. And I think that you can't talk about 2024 without talking about her whole album, Short and Sweet. I mean, that took off like crazy.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Right. It was in the mix. It was everywhere. You couldn't go to the dentist's office. We're hearing that effing please, 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 right?
Yes.
But Please, Please, Please is a fantastic song.
It is. I mean, Dixon, I'm 100% on board with you. I don't know if you know this, but like I'm a big Sabrina Carpenter fan too, for the exact same reason that you just said.
Right. And I there's something about her songs that I enjoy them. I enjoy listening to her songs and her music.
Yep.
Now she's pretty easy on the eyes. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, come on, yeah. She's a little firecracker for sure. She's all, she's like 5 foot tall, like 5 foot nothing.
Yes. And
I love it.
don't you have a preference? You have a preference that when women are short, or is that something else I'm thinking of?
I mean, no, that's me for sure.
Yeah, definitely. No one else when we have that fringe conversation. I should have known better. So Please, Please, Please is a good song. It's a good song. And I love the synth and the 1980s kind of funky guitar. Like that reminds me of like new wave, post Smith's era 80s music. I think the intro and the production and the song itself works really well with her lyrics. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. I totally agree with you. I think that a lot of these producers and artists are going, I feel like even Billie Eilish used some of the 80s kind of tones in her new album too, and I think that's like making a comeback. But Sabrina Carpenter does a fantastic job with her vocals along with that kind of tone.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's good. And that follow up to that is, and this thing is too, is when we talk about the collaboration aspect, you have to give everybody credit on that album, because you could listen to that album and every song is a banger on that, and you want to listen to it over again. And you feel like you're dipping yourself into her point of view and what she's doing, but I'm not overloaded, right? I still feel good about things. Right. I still feel like I can relate to her at a certain point, right? And that's the dichotomy there, I think, between our other favorite, T Swift, and a lot of these other artists, is that there's just that an essence there that she doesn't quite capture, and Sabrina has that, and I think it translates well to her music. And with that being said, the other follow-up, my probably my favorite song of the last few weeks has been Espresso, and
I sang this on my list.
That's what. Wow, how do you like that? See, collaboration. I sung that song for months without actually knowing the lyrics. I had no idea what they were, and then I listened to it, and it has this sexy, ultra sexy tone, right?
The flow of it is just, it's so good, and it fits her. It just fits her.
Right. And the flow, and this thing is, and the lyrics, the music, the backing track, the production is equally as sexy as the lyrics, as where we're headed. The whispering voices, right? The content, but the production and the flow, like you said, make it what it is. It puts it all together. This very just physical and raw and steamy kind of track, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm going to tell you, and I'll share the story because I shared it to you with you BTS. So maybe you all know out there, I haven't been a user of Spotify previously. I like CDs. I like those kind of things. So I have adopted the Spotify way of life, and I let you know this about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I was setting up a playlist for an event I was part of. So yeah, it had to be clean. It had to be clean things, clean songs. And I just happened to be listening to the playlist, and I was playing it. I'm like, wow, Spotify is really cool. This is a cool thing. So I probably listened to Please, 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 the clean version, like maybe 45 times. And I'm wondering, because we always talk about your Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year. I wonder how that's going to skew my algorithm.
Yeah, I know.
What's going to happen? Because my current 2 recommended playlists are, number 1, Bob Dylan Greatest Hits, and number 2, it's like the Sabrina Carpenter channel, like whatever. Yeah,
I'm honestly so curious, because I'm sure as you use it more, you're going to be listening to other artists like a lot, but there are times though when I know that I listen to something in the beginning of the year, and then I come back to my Spotify Wrapped, and then it's just all that, you know what I mean? It's just completely Sabrina Carpenter that I listened to in the beginning of the year. So that'll be interesting though. I'm curious to see that.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so those are my top three for the 2024.
Good.
So 2, Maybe No Money, and Sabrina Carpenter-Espresso. Please, please, please. So
okay, that's good stuff. And you know what? I'm almost. I don't want to say I'm embarrassed about what my favorite song is, but there's one that has mass appeal, and then there's one that I would only enjoy, and I'm probably the only person that knows about it being released.
Okay.
So first, I want to start with kind of my runner-up here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask you this, Dixon. Do you know our girl Charli XCX?
Yes.
So she came out with a song that's called Talk Talk.
Okay.
And that was a big hit. But then Troye Sivan came along. Now, he's that gay guy that he sings a song called Rush that came out in 2023. And,
I know that song.
I mean,
I
love Troye Sivan. He comes out with absolute bangers. But he remixed Charlie's Talk Talk, and it is now that is an absolute banger. Yeah, that was his. I wanted to talk about all of his music, and I'm like, oh, he released this in 2023. I just became like a big fan recently.
That's awesome.
But this song literally just came out in 2024, so I was like, oh, this is. I've listened to the song hundreds and hundreds of times, and it's amazing.
That's awesome. I have to check that out.
Cool. It's a really good song. It's one of those EDM songs that it gets you pumped up. It has a really good beat. Troy singing is fantastic. It's really good, and I think he adds to it in a great way. It's one of those songs where the remix makes it better, and you don't usually see that.
No, you don't. Not often. That's cool.
I was gonna say best mass appeal song. That was Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. Just one that everyone knows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
And here, a little kind of a fun one here. And I only did this because we talked about, I don't know if you remember this, Dixon, but we talked about influencers and how they release horrible music.
Yes.
So you might not remember, I didn't even remember, to be honest, but Addison Rae, she was one of the people that we talked about. And she had a song called I Got It Bad. And it was not a good song. It was clearly that she just like, oh, I'm going to become an artist. I'm just going to become a singer. I've never done it in my life. I'm just going to do it, whatever. But this is my best comeback song of 2024.
Oh, wow,
she made a song. She made a song called Diet Pepsi, and I don't care what anyone says. It is an absolute banger. It is.
I love that song. I love that song too. Diet Pepsi.
You know that song? Oh my god. Okay, perfect.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. That is an absolute banger. I think I came across it on like a YouTube shuffle, listening to Sabrina Carpenter things, and that came up.
That is so funny, and it's hilarious too, because if you listen to the Addison Rae song, the first one that she ever came out with when she started releasing this stuff, I'm like, this is horrible. But then you listen to Diet Pepsi, it actually sounds like a Sabrina Carpenter level kind of thing. You know what I mean?
It does. It's very good. It's good. That's a really good. That's such a good category. Best comeback 2024. That's awesome. That's so cool.
So okay, now I'm gonna go to my two favorite songs, and first I'm going to go with the one that, people might not like this. You might not, you might roll your eyes at it.
Okay.
But I had a lot of fun listening to this song. And that's going to be a bar song, Tipsy, by my boy Shaboozey.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I love it. I absolutely love that song.
I knew that was going to be on your. I thought that was going to be on your list. I knew it because you love that song.
I do. There's something about it. I used to love the song, and like I know people say like, oh, it's a cover of Tipsy, but it's really not. Like
it's not.
There's like one line that is that references Tipsy, whatever. But
yeah,
I think that Shaboozey, I think he has some good talent. He blew up from that song. You've seen him in like halftime shows and things like that, and he's not a bad singer. Like he can actually perform. No. So I really enjoy that, and for what it means for him as an artist, I hope he actually continues to release kind of fun songs like this, because he's not bad.
I agree with you. I think that song is really good. I think he's really good, and I think that he brings a good vibe to the that kind of took like all those what the hell, those fake cowboy songs that were big like 5 years ago. Like he puts like a new like seriousness to it with still being fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's not like he's not. I'm trying to think of a way to put it. It's not. like trying to be like a cowboy. He's not trying to be something he's not, but it's still country, and I kind of like that about him.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, that was tied for my other very obscure one. So here's my other best song of 2024. And that is called Summer 2000 Baby by George Clanton and TV Girl, which is the most like indie obscure thing. But here's the thing, Dixon. You know what's really funny, and it kind of chaps my ass at the same time, but I'm still happy for him. So way back when we started this show, what was it? 2-3 years ago now?
Yes, right.
I definitely mentioned George Clanton like a while ago.
You've been talking about George Clanton for a while. You introduced me to George Clanton, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly who George Clanton is, and I forgot that you brought him up. You've been bringing him up for years.
I know. So and now that you're a Spotify guy, you'll understand what I'm talking about. It says it'll show an artist's monthly listeners. Okay. So back when we started talking about George Clanton, he had maybe like 30K monthly listeners, which is in the grand scheme, it's really it's not that much.
No, it's not, right?
If you have 30K monthly listeners, like you have like a very niche cult following. Well, apparently this TV Girl that he did this new album with, they're apparently like a quite a popular indie band.
Okay, interesting.
And George Clanton signed up with them, and they made it a whole collaborative album together, and this is the single off the album. But now he has 1.1 million monthly listeners. I just looked today.
Wow, that's huge. Wow.
I know.
Wild.
So now I'm thinking, is George Clanton really going to be up there and like, people going to know who this is, apparently, is what I'm saying.
So let's just be very frank here.
Yeah.
So number one, we helped launch the Nickelback reunion tour because nobody on this godforsaken platform was talking about Nickelback 2 years ago. We were.
Wow.
And you helped to launch George Clanton's career because you did. You talked about him quite a bit. He was on your wrap up last year, I remember.
I think he was. He actually was. You're right. Yeah, because I was listening to his album Slide that came out in 2018. That's right.
Yes, for sure. Because I think there was a preface there, like, "Oh, this is a couple years." I feel like we've had this conversation almost before.
We definitely did. Oh my god! We 100%. I was listening to him 10 years ago when he came out with 100% electronica, and that was the first time I ever heard anything like that. I'm like, wow, this is like taking me to another world. And
that's crazy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And here he is. Look at that.
I know. How about that? Yeah. So you could direct your thanks to us, Mr. Clanton, to Tyson Dixon. You're welcome.
Friend of the show. We're so happy you got it. Finally got it after all these years.
Good job. Fantastic.
Way to go, George. GC, as he's known around the neighborhood.
GC. Oh man, yeah, that's funny. But yeah, those are my favorite songs.
That's a really solid list.
Thank you.
That's a really solid list. And I said this before, but you always have these fringe things that I love because I really wouldn't have discovered them if you didn't bring them up. And that's what's really cool. And that's why I like deep diving into your like lists and things like that, because you always have something that's out there that's not really on the radar, and it ends up being really good. And it's out there in a good way. Like it's good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't even know how I stumble. I really don't understand how I stumble across them, but when I do, and you listen to something and you like it. Yeah, no, for sure. But, that's what it's all about. You're absolutely right. 100%. Great. That's a pretty solid list. Those are solid lists. I mean, like I said, I wanted to keep things light, and I think that just what you touched on and what I touched on, I think sums up what our show tries to be. Right, a little bit of everything. 100%. Is good. So good for sure. And now Dixon. Yes. We talked about this. Oh yeah, for quite a while. I unfortunately didn't get to see it, but you, yes, and I'm going to. I'm definitely going to. But you were able to see the new Bob Dylan motion picture. Yes. So Complete Unknown with Timothy. Wait, I just looked up how to say his name. Timothy Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet, right? Yeah, I think so. So Complete Unknown. Timothy Chalamet kind of focuses on his arrival in New York City, to him going electric at
Newport Folk Festival. And it was actually based on a book. It's a book I hadn't read, but I screenshotted it, so I remember to read it. It's actually called Dylan Goes Electric. And I thought it was based on Bob Dylan's autobiography, Chronicles Volume 1, which there's been no Volume 2. And there's no plans for Volume 2. Why it's Volume 1, I have no idea. But
that's interesting.
So that's once again your theory that
just a complete troll.
Yeah, it's a complete troll. So I was, because it's this set up the same way. Rise in New York City. He visits Woody Guthrie in the hospital, which I didn't realize he did. And he meets Pete Seeger at the hospital, and then it goes into his career and his early career and how he kind of built up and all those kind of things. Mm-hmm. So from a filmography standpoint, from a film standpoint, it's fantastic. It's well done. The use of music is good. Timothy sings all the songs, and there's a few different blips and eras of Bob Dylan's voice changing, even in the first 4 or 5 years he's a recording artist, and he nails those things. You can't tell the difference. He acts like Bob. He sounds like Bob. The young woman that plays Joan Baez also sings a song spot on, incredible performance. And it's wild. There's a couple things that were surprising to me, because this is a Bob Dylan biopic. This is Bob Dylan's story. You could talk about the content of the film, and it's basically it had happened. It's Bob Dylan's life, with the exception of a few different fictional things added.
Sure.
A couple things that I, as a lifelong, the last 20 years or so, Bob Dylan fan, that I really hadn't realized. Number one, I didn't realize how close Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan were. How much they exchanged letters. We talked about how Johnny Cash gave Bob Dylan his guitar when they first met, which is like an old country sign of respect. But they were really kind of on the same page with things. They had a pretty close relationship, and that kind of expanded in the late 60s, when he and Bob recorded some things, and he was on Johnny Cash's show. That was surprising to me. I finally get why everybody was so pissed off about Bob Dylan going electric. And that was, for me, my perspective, listening to Bob Dylan as a teenager in my 20s and in college, you want to cause trouble. You want to be a rebel. That to me was like, oh yeah, Bob Dylan just saying, F you, I'm going to do what I want. This is the original punk rock, Mm-hmm. However, when Bob Dylan arrived in New York City, and he brings his guitar case and nothing else, and shares songs with people that are very much in the folk world, and with the heavy hitters in the folk world, Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger, and Joan Baez is now on the cover of Time magazine at this point. They're astounded that he's writing these songs at 21 years old. But also, they view this is their chance to make folk music popular, to be center stage, to have a difference in the world. And he had this whole community around him that was supporting Bob Dylan, making his music available and accessible to people. And he just said, you know what, I'm done with it. I'm done. And you had everybody rooting for Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan goes, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. And there's a pretty interesting, so everybody, that's why everybody was so pissed off. Cause it's like, well, we invested everything in you. We put you up there. We wanted you to do this. We're here. Really? And he's like, no, forget it. Yeah. And I finally understand that after, like I said, a lifelong being a fan of Bob Dylan for years. But
wow.
And I think it sums it up. There's an interesting scene, and I don't know if this really happened or not, but Johnny Cash and this isn't a spoiler alert either. Johnny Cash, you could read a book about Bob Dylan. It's in the book. So this isn't like this is the thing, but there's a scene in the film where Johnny Cash is leaving the hotel the morning before Bob Dylan goes electric at Newport Folk, and he's saying, well, what's the latest? What's going on? And Bob's like, well, they're pissed off at me. They don't want me to do this. And he's like, well, who's they? And Bob Dylan says, they are who decides what folk music is. So there's this component you think that Bob Dylan's thinking, hey, I'm still a folk artist. I'm just doing it a little bit differently. I'm still telling stories, right? That's what folk music is.
Right.
I'm still having an impact, whatever that might be. That's what folk music is. And I think he's transitioning that into what he wants to do and how he wants it to sound. And people don't like that. And I think that's, without seeing his perspective, you can get pissed off.
I see. So
right,
Bob Dylan didn't think he was like betraying anyone. He just said that this is, I'm still doing folk music and this is just what it is. I'm just.
I think that's unsaid. I don't think he thinks he's doing folk music. I think there was that perspective in his mind. There has to be some sort of interpretation to what Bob Dylan thinks and what he says, because if you ask him directly, he's going to tell you you're wrong, or like, no, it doesn't mean anything. There's hours and hours of footage of him doing press conferences and interviews, and he's just, as he would say, putting the guy on and basically saying, no, a lot of songs say things. You know what I mean? Like, what does blowing the wind mean? Well, nothing, dude. You tell me blowing in the wind means nothing.
I know, yeah.
Like, it's hard to believe that, right?
It is.
So there's that perspective that I don't think Bob Dylan is thinking he's betraying anybody. He just wants to do, like you said, make a new sound, take things probably to the next level. And of course he's influenced by what's going on. I mean, the Beatles are coming up, right?
Sure.
You have Jimi Hendrix, who's blowing people out of the water. It's the era is starting to change towards that later 60s rock snenario. You have the people are burning braziers and they're throwing their draft cards over the wall. I mean, we're only a few years away from that. And Dylan sees that, and I think he's always inspired by change, and he wants to change it himself, and then he goes from there. So there's that component. Two things, the other two things I thought, it solidifies your point completely. Bob Dylan is staying with his girlfriend at the time, and he gets a package, and it's all this stuff from his high school. It's like, Robert Zimmerman's picture and a Minnesota Golden Gophers button, all these kind of things from his childhood. And she asks him about it, and he basically says, well, anybody could be from anywhere. And I could make my past whatever. I'm paraphrasing. I could make my past whatever I want it to be. I could make my parents and my family whoever I want it to be. It doesn't matter. So he's inventing and he's creating a persona at the same time while he's writing some of the most impactful music that anybody's ever heard. And I think those two things work together as far as Bob Dylan pushing the envelope, but also going back to you that there is that troll component, right?
It almost makes it seem more confusing to me about who Bob Dylan is. Like, just like him always answering in these kind of like ways that make you think, and then saying that he could be anyone. But he's making a persona while also writing these songs that are like super impactful. It's right. I don't know. It's hard. That's why I really want to see this, because I feel like it's a look into himself instead of just seeing him up on stage and performing.
Right. And I think going to your point too, I think it's hard to believe that there's a persona there when you're writing songs about civil rights, when you're writing songs about peace in the world. It's hard to believe that comes with a persona, right?
Exactly.
And that you could see that's how he's thinking. Even when he just arrives in New York City, he's like, anybody can be from anywhere. It doesn't matter what my past is. I can make it up. He told Joan Baez that he grew up in a carnival. That his family was in the carnival and he was on tour in the carnival.
Oh my God.
And yeah,
that's so funny.
Yes, it's so funny. It's so funny. It's hilarious. So there's two things there that support your point, but also you could see why he's trying to push the envelope and trying to create new sounds and new music. And the last thing I think is absolutely hilarious is, we've talked about on the show before, but the rumor is, so Bob Dylan and Joan Baez had a relationship. They had a physical relationship. They had a working relationship. It's rocky. It's up and down.
Yes.
There's the rumor that she aborted his baby at one point. But there's a scene in the film where it looks like we're on the brink of nuclear war, and people are going crazy, and people are trying to get out of New York, and things are happening all around them. And so Joan Baez packs her suitcase, looks like she's taken off, and she happens to walk by one of the folk clubs that they all play. And who's on stage but Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan is playing, I forget what song he's playing at the time, but it's Masters. I think it's Masters of War. He's playing Masters of War. And she's watching it. I don't know if this has really happened or not, but she's watching it and she's stunned by the lyrics, and he goes to walk out and they just start making out hardcore, right? And
oh, wow.
Joan Baez and Bob Dylan hooking up is like, I don't know, the most uber popular girl in your high school hooking up with the dropout of the chess team. Like, that's how the dynamic is. Like, in reality, like it's so funny. It's just such a funny thing that this actually happened. But it goes to show you that whatever the span was, he established himself, regardless of what they were doing before. Baez, all these people that were in the folk world, Peter, Paul, and Mary, nothing was like Bob Dylan was doing. So you have hundreds and hundreds of years of folk music, and Bob Dylan totally takes folk music, transforms it, and takes it to this next level, and nobody can believe it. It's just like it's from a moment in time. It sounds like it's a fictional story. It does, but to exist at that moment in time when Bob Dylan's just getting started, it just must have been incredible. Because seriously, it's just wild. He just takes it up so many different notches.
So did you feel like it was like an accurate portrayal of that period of his life?
Well, I think I feel like I've only read I've only read and watched a quarter of what has been written and produced by Bob Dylan. But for me, it added context. It added the context I see. of where Bob Dylan was headed, why everybody was so pissed off, what he was at least thinking a little bit for the most part, because they don't really take a whole lot of artistic license with him, and it's it's a factual portrayal, but with some artistic license as well. But they don't fill in the blanks a lot for Bob Dylan, and I think what they're putting together is what's evident by what he's producing, what he's recording, who he's talking to, those kind of things. So just added context to all those big moments that really kind of shaped Bob Dylan's trajectory in his career. And that's why I thought, from a film perspective, it's fantastic. From a film itself, you could watch it and not be a Bob Dylan fan and be really astounded by it.
Right.
And as a Bob Dylan fan, I found it added context, and it just took that story to the next level.
That's cool. Yeah, no, it definitely sounds really interesting. Yeah. I'm definitely going to see it one of these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'll be good for me too, just because I'm interested in Bob Dylan just from even hearing you talk about him. I mean, it's
for sure. Yeah.
He just sounds like a very interesting guy. So yeah,
sure.
I'm looking forward to it.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely worthwhile, worth your time. So
good.
For sure.
Good stuff. All right. That was our year in review then there, I guess.
Yeah. We went a lot of different directions there, and I think that's where this show is going to head in 2025. It sounds like.
I think so. I think we're going to be bringing a lot of good stuff. I think you're still going to get the same old Ice and Dixon, the great music analysis that you love, unbiased and unfiltered.
Biased and unfiltered. Truly unbiased and unfiltered. Yes. Yeah, for
sure. Well, guys, we hope you stick with us in 2025. A lot of episodes to come, and we will see you in the next one.
Peace.